Welcome to the Narrowgate Podcast. I'm Weston.
And I'm Logan.
And this is another Bill Spencer episode, live at the Narrowgate Barn here at the 2024 Graduate Reunion.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
It's good stuff.
And for our listening audience, that was a room full of graduates and students.
That's right.
And obviously, we've never done this before. So, guys, welcome. Give yourselves another round of applause.
Welcome.
We're doing this thing. This is exciting.
Yeah. So, Bill, this is a special Narrowgate Graduate Reunion because it is our 20th year anniversary graduate reunion. How does that feel? 20 years of Narrowgate.
How does it feel?
Yeah, how are you doing with
How
that?
are you doing?
I'm tired.
Tired.
No, it's
There's gotta be a follow-up there. You don't let them go after that one. I mean, come on. Like, what do you think about 20 years of doing this ministry?
After you
20
push
years of-
past the tiredness of it all,
Yeah.
what's the deep sense of your heart when it comes to 20 years looking back of the impact that God has had in the form of Narrowgate?
unimagined gratitude. I mean, to know that we did not intend on doing this, right? It was Rob and Adam. Hey, you want to just come stay in our house and try to get your head screwed on straight. And now it's 20 years later and 500 and whatever guys. And we had no idea. And to sit here now in retrospect, to look at the generations of guys who have come, the generations of guys who have stayed, to watch what God has done to transform life for 20 years, it is unimagined gratitude. That's how it feels.
Well, I'm grateful. You guys grateful? Is that a thing I'm going to be doing all night? I'm going to be talking to these guys instead of you guys. But
Evidently. It's twice now.
I'm just really happy y'all are here. This is fun.
No, that's good. Yeah. 20 years. I had a thought. I had
Is
an
this
idea.
still the intro, or are we actually in the podcast?
we're
I think we're in it.
We're in it?
We're in
Yeah,
it.
we're in it.
Okay, we're in it.
Yeah. So,
I'm going to have a drink of water then to get prepared.
all right.
Go.
And then I'm going to give you a question that you can think about while you're drinking.
Okay, here we go.
How are you doing?
How am I doing? Isn't that the trick question?
Yeah.
How are you doing? Like if you ask, never mind, we've already had this discussion. How are you doing? Like you should probably ask 6 other people who are in relationship with me, and they would give you a more well-rounded and accurate answer of how I'm doing.
So there's your
'Cause
response. Ask my friends.
Yeah, ask my wife. Ask
Oh, yeah.
Stacy how
That's a
I'm
good
doing.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But seriously, like what? Okay, just like what placeholder question would you rather be asked other
That's a
than
good
how
question.
am I doing?
I think asking questions, like if we could socially,
Yeah.
which we can't, but if it's somebody that you know, if you could walk up and ask them instead of "How are you doing," which that's okay to ask because it's genuine. You really want to know with people that you know. Hey, are you okay? What things are difficult in your life right now? What things are rewarding? What things are bringing you joy? What things are bringing you struggle? That's really what we're getting at. All that's embedded in "How are you doing?" Right? Mm-hmm. So if you could ask a different question, I think it would be one of those. Hey, what's going on in your life right now that is new and revelatory and is spurring you on to growth? Or what things are bringing you joy right now? Or what are the struggles in your life right now? Because if you tell me the struggles, I know what to ask God for when I'm praying about you.
That's
Yep,
good.
That is good. What are some of your favorite Christianese, greetings or phrases?
Wow, I'm so glad you put that in air quotes. My favorite
Yeah,
Christianese
favorite,
statements. Yeah,
Favorite
there
in
are
like
none.
had to be
in
some
like an
sarcasm
ironic
in there.
sense, yeah.
Yeah, there are none. Let's just start with that.
Yeah.
My heart is a good one.
How's your heart?
My heart, just my heart. And
Well, no, anything with my heart. I've had you on my heart lately. It's like, I'll bet that hurt. Because I weigh close to 200
wanna
pounds, and
see
your
it.
heart's about as big as my fist right there. So you're probably in trouble. I think they call that cardiac arrest, if I'm not mistaken. Had
That's a
you
good
on
one.
my heart.
Yeah.
But I can't even think of any right now because I do everything possible consciously to push those away. Here's why.
Hedge of protection. That's a good
A
one.
hedge, oh my gosh, a hedge of protection. Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay.
I had to
Here's
throw
the
that one in
thing.
there.
If you've got 4 guys who play golf sitting at a table having dinner, and there's one guy who doesn't play golf, and they're using all of the jargon and vernacular surrounding the game of golf, how left out does the 5th guy feel?
Very.
I mean, just think about
always
the
feel
term.
left out
I'm that
in
guy.
situation.
Yeah.
I'm that guy too.
In,
Yeah.
In golf conversations,
Yeah.
I'm that guy for sure.
Okay, so if you've got 4 people that know all the Christianese and they're sitting around and talking, and there's one guy that doesn't, how left out is he? If the point of Christianity is to welcome people into the kingdom, why in the world would we develop a subset language that holds people at a distance? That's crazy. All it takes is a little bit of empathetic effort to think about what you would typically say as jargon or vernacular held within the worship circles of Christendom and turn it into normal language. Just turn it into normal language. Not, I've had you on my heart lately. So I've been thinking a lot about you lately because I remember, and then say something emotional. I remember an emotional thing that you're facing or a difficult conversation that we had. And I'm just wondering, are you doing all right with that? Is it still a struggle for you? It's just not that hard to get around.
Yeah.
We should like pitch him a few different like classic Christianese phrases and have him like retranslate them on the fly.
I don't know if I could think of any past head
No, I can
protection.
think of
That's my
I can think
go-to.
some like I really feel that God's called me to blank.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you got your phone number, but I don't even have it. Like God's called me to. That's, yeah. I don't know where that's born. I don't know. That, we
Another
should avoid that.
question I think of is like, what other things do we kind of thoughtlessly do to put those barriers in between people who feel like they're on the out of the Christianese, or say they're young in their faith and like, man,
Yeah.
whether it's in, like just our normal Sunday focused church services. Like, I don't know, I've been kind of mulling some of those over lately.
Dude, I think it's more innocent than that, though. Really, if you think about it, I'm not sure that we do anything that intentionally keeps somebody else at a distance. I don't think that's what we do. I think what we do is develop a language set that makes us feel included in some kind of a club, a fraternal organization, a brotherhood of Christ, right? That subset language is designed to make us feel like we're a part. It's self-esteeming. And ignorantly, what we're doing is potentially holding somebody else at bay. I think the problem is in that moment, we're considering the relationship that we know and the good in for us, and we're not necessarily consciously thinking about the person who might be pushed at a distance. So I think it's way more innocent. I don't think we intentionally hold anybody at bay. I think it's more of a comfort and convenience thing.
I think one of the things that bothers me about the kind of Christianese language in those circles is not, of course, the pushing somebody else who's maybe not a part of that circle at a distance, but it's people who have just joined the circle or are new to Christianity or new to the faith. They now feel like they need to adopt that language in order to be part of the club.
Yep.
And they don't ever actually develop a full understanding of what those words or phrases, like grace or faith or, all these,
Yep.
sanctification, and they don't actually understand what it is that they're saying. And then they say it long enough that they would be embarrassed to ask what it means. And so they live their entire Christian life without an understanding of what these really important words and like phrases mean, and it debilitates them. That's what gets me about it.
I can think of learning some words while I was a student here at Narrowgate that I grew up just hearing in the church and kind of heard it in certain contexts and like, yeah, I've got a certain understanding of what that meant. And then taking the time to dive in and like find the origin of the words, like I learned that here, in a lot of respects. So
Isn't that the beauty of Narrowgate, though? If you think about the discomfort of a student who says a word, like we'll say grace, for instance, they say the word grace in a conversation with me, and man, I know that when I take that and push it back on them, I know how disquieting that is. I get it. I know how emotionally uncomfortable that is. And I know in the moment, it seems like I'm being incredibly unfair, incredibly pushy, and whatever you want to say, like even like just being a wise butt for a minute. But it's that emotional moment where you're forcing their emotions into a thought process that you get them to think through why they're using that word, what they mean by it, and if that's actually what the word means. That's one of the beauties of Narrowgate. We get to take everything that everybody thinks they know and push it to its absolute limit to see if it holds up. They might be right. I mean, think about how many times I challenged something that one of you guys thought, only to get to the end and realize the thing you think is actually true. Like the way you think about it is right. But at least you were challenged to justify it to yourself and to everybody else that you were using that thought with. You can be more confident in your ownership of that thought once it's been challenged.
Yeah.
It's a tempering process.
I remember specifically when I was a student, I think it was an early community, there was another student that had been a Christian, all their lives, and they used a lot of that language. And I remember, like, very vividly, he said something like, somebody asked how he was doing, or what he asked how he was doing, or how what he was experiencing with God, and he said something like, God is so good, like I feel his face like shining on me, And I thought, okay, sounds like a Christian thing to say, like that sounds good and fine. I didn't really understand it, but I remember Boots looked at him and was like, what do you mean? Like, what does that feel like? Like God's face is shining on you. Like, can you talk about that? Like what? Like he called it out, and I remember like thinking, oh, he just called it right out. Like I'm sitting here internally thinking, I don't know what that means. I don't know what it feels like to have God's face shine on me. But here, this guy seems to have a whole lifetime of experience of it. And Boots just called it out, and it turned out like it was just one of those. He didn't really have like an answer. It was just one of those things that he'd been taught over the course of his life. And I think that was maybe one of the first moments that I realized, like, oh, that kind of like language can be dangerous. And I think I was set on a path of like, oh, no, I'm going to choose different ways to say the things that I'm experiencing besides what's the sort of the classic, accepted statements of Christianity.
Even outside, I'm just remembering, like, I'm just puzzled, like, where else? Who else gets the opportunity to slow down like this? To be in community and gain these trusted relationships where someone will just look at you and say, hey, why did you say that? And what do you think that means? Even outside of like the Christianese kind of concepts, like I can remember specifically, it was probably standing right outside of this barn one day. I remember when Stacy called me out, because I don't know, I had apparently been saying for a while, I'd been saying like, if I can be honest, and then I'd say a statement, or I'd say, honestly, comma, and I'd say something. And she finally like, hey, when you say that, have you ever thought about how that makes it sound like you're not being honest all the time? It's like, oh, no, why? Okay, so why do I say that? I'm saying that to like just put a little extra weight into the point that I'm trying to make. But again, it's like I don't even know if we have even that kind of relationship with our own parents to slow you down and say, think about the ways that you're saying things. Think about the ways that you're doing things. And I'm just grateful that kind of trust is built here, where somebody can just slow you down and say, why do you do the things that you do?
Oh yeah. I remember in community sitting around in a circle, and Bill did that one at a time, just right around the room. You need to think about this, and this is something that you deal with, and this is the thing that you need. And it was like, in the moment, it felt like kind of brutal, but it was like afterwards, everyone walked out of that meeting having something was revealed to them, like, oh, this was a blind spot for me,
And we talked about doing this for 20 years. And so you earlier you pulled out this wonderful little spreadsheet that I didn't know existed that has, I guess, every single name of every student who's ever come through the doors.
Yeah, we've got it.
Of Narrowgate.
Yeah.
And so
It's
I
a long
wonder
list.
if he could just kind of flip through some of these names, and if you could remember anything specific at all.
Hey, while he's doing that, I got to say something about what we were talking about just a minute ago. Then that'll give him time to pull out some real juicy names out of here, some that have funny stories attached to it. Well, they've all got funny stories attached to them. But like the dude that pulled up and wouldn't even get out of the car when he came to Foundation. Okay, but anyway, that's a different thing. Okay. Now I forgot what I wanted to say, dog. Oh, yeah, I remember. When you were saying, hey, can I just be honest? Or, truthfully or honestly, That's one of the things that Jesus was talking about. This is going to make a great short, by the way. Somebody's going to get all upset that I'm about to say this. So just clip it out, put it out there, and let the good times roll. Yeah. Man. Okay. Jesus said, why do you swear an oath? Just let yes be yes and no be no. And everybody goes, okay, so if you say yes, you got to do it. And if you say no, you can't do it. And I think that primarily, not exclusively, primarily qualification, not wholly, but focusedly, what Jesus is saying is, look, you should not have to add superlatives and oaths and swearings and caveats and qualifiers. If you live a life of integrity, you should just be able to speak and people know that it's honest. You should just be able to say, I'm going to do something, and people know, well, yeah, if he said he's going to do it, he's going to do it, or I'm not going to do that. And you don't have to be emphatic about it. You can just say, I don't think I will. No, thank you. And that's it. It's just done. I think that's what Jesus was getting at. You can be incredibly understated if you are emphatically alive.
That would be a great
Say
short.
that one again.
Yeah.
Did you say that'd be a great what?
That would be a great short.
Oh, I thought you said shirt. It would also work well on a T-shirt.
It'd be long. There'd be a lot on there. And it'd take somebody a few seconds to read it all, but
Yeah.
I don't disagree. It would be
No,
a good
no,
shirt.
we both
Yeah.
agree.
You might as well use the front and the back. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Be one of those T-shirts where like 3 words are huge, and then the rest of them are little bitty
Yeah.
written around it,
Yeah.
and the 3 words make no sense compared to the big statement. Yeah. Okay, you've got a spreadsheet
read
going
us
there.
Yeah,
names
you wanna-
Weston.
I
Let's
just-
talk about the 10 Commandments.
I want to
for a minute.
read just real quick. I'm going to read through the first 6 people. And
You want me to just quote them to you?
well, I want you to just wait until I get to the 6th one because this is funny. This is how old school this list is. So you got Rob Rogers, Adam Stoner, Alex Eagle, Keith Williams, Will Campbell, and number 6, the guy from Alabama.
Any gaps to fill in there,
We
Bill?
didn't quite catch his name.
Surely we can get a little more information. Than
No, we can't.
Yeah. So yeah, that would
Lost
have been
to time.
2004. Before the spreadsheet, was in the works.
Hey.
We know he existed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Okay. So
about
here's
it.
the deal. We're just in our house, right? There's no
Yeah.
narrow gate. There's
Yeah.
none of that. It's just our house out in Kingston Springs. That's all it is. And we were dear friends with this counselor down in Alabama, her and her husband. They're just phenomenal people, man.
Yeah.
And I got a call one day, and I'm not going to use her name because I don't want anybody tracking back and all that kind of junk, okay? But she called one day, and she said, hey, I've been counseling with this guy. He's 40-something, okay? Like 47, 46, something like. He's older than me, and I'm 42 at the time, okay? And this guy's
Yeah.
older than me. And he's got some chronic pain issues, and so he's gotten way off into drug abuse, and now he's lost, and he's losing his family, and he doesn't know what to do next. And could I just send him up to your house to live up there for a while and see if maybe God would do something? That is no joke. He was older than me.
Wow.
And so there's like Rob and Adam and Alex Eagle, and then the guy from Alabama. That's the dude. I don't remember his name. He might have made it 4 days. Then he packed up and went home because it's like, ain't nothing here for you, bro. This is not.
I'm glad he made the list, though.
To me, that's like a testimony of like what is a funny thing on this list. The guy from Alabama is like a memory for you. It's like somebody's life,
Yeah.
like in the early stages of before it was even Narrowgate. But this guy was impacted by the work that God was doing in Narrowgate. Maybe not by name yet,
Nope.
but that's pretty cool.
But man, here's the cool thing. When I think about that, at that point in time, if somebody had said, I have, and it doesn't even matter what comes next, Stacy and I had already decided the house that we were living in wasn't ours. We were responsible for the mortgage, but that doesn't make it ours. We don't get to keep it at the end of the day, right? It's God's house. It's God's car. It's God's money. It's God's company. It's God's time. It's God's air that we breathed in and forced back out to make the words that I'm telling this story with. It all belongs to God. And if that's the case, then who are we to say you can't live here? So we took absolutely anybody, anywhere, anytime. Anybody. Like if you just read that list a little bit farther, you'll find another one, and everybody will just like fall out laughing because he was outside the age range and not. Yeah. So, yeah. So I think it's a pretty cool memory because you laugh and you think I can't even remember that dude's name. He was here for like 4 days and he went home and we did nothing to help him, but we were there.
Yeah.
We said you can come live with us. We'll feed you. We'll love you. He just didn't stick around.
I wasn't going to say this name, but I think I'm going to because it's worth it to me. So back in 2005, actually our 25th student, I guess came to live with you guys. His name was Eric Davis.
Eric Davis.
Yeah. I think he
Eric.
developed a nickname, Boots.
Eric Davis.
Yeah, Boots. Can you just tell me about like Boots on day one? Like you guys know Boots, right? Boots is on the executive team. He's a. I just need to know.
Yep. Okay. So Boots, if I get the story right, Boots was going to a church in North Nashville. The guy who spent some time in prison came out and started a church, and he went there. But he was watching services at Grace Chapel at the public library. The same public library where he was checking out Christian books, like Max Lucado book. Here's a specific one. He checked out a Max Lucado book, and he liked it so much he just kept it. Think that through. It's the public library.
Yeah.
He checked out a Max Lucado book. He liked it so much he just kept. He stole a Christian book from the public library to learn about God. That's right. So he would go to the public library, get on the internet because he didn't have internet for himself, and he would watch Grace Chapel services. And the service that he watched, like the second one he watched, was a Narrowgate Sunday. And Rob and Adam were getting up and talking about their experience with God and the transformation and all that kind of stuff. So we got a call from Boots. And he was saying, hey, I saw this service. Is there a way I can meet you guys? Of course, back then, it's me and Stacy, jump in the truck. We went and got him, brought him up to our then offices, started learning a little bit about his life. He's a great guy. He was super, super likable. At that point, he'd had like 27 jobs. He owed back money on his rent. His life was just kind of a train wreck. But it didn't change the fact that he was a good guy and he wanted something better. So we said, hey, why don't you hang out with us? I think the night that we came and got him, he watched a broadcast of Grace Chapel that was just a little bit time delayed. And it was a Sunday night, and we were going out to the Williamson County Fairgrounds, and they were having a big ecumenical service at the fairgrounds. So a lot of different pastors were going to get up and talk and whatever. And we took Boots along for this thing, and we gave everybody like, $20 to go ride rides and get cotton candy or whatever. And then we went into this church service, and this dude, like, why do people do what they do? They were passing around buckets for an offering, and this guy literally said from stage, I don't want to hear no change rattling around in them buckets now. Ain't nothing but paper money dropping in there. And all of our guys are like brand new believers or not believers at all. And that was Boots' introduction to Narrowgate. Some guy saying, it's not okay to give change to God. So that was the fodder for our original discussion. And we got to caveat what the guy said.
Wow.
And move on from there. But I will say this, the train wreck of a life that Boots was living at the time was the work of the devil in his life. It's what the devil had turned his life into. Without that train wreck, he would have never sought something better. Without seeking something better, he never would have found Jesus. Without finding Jesus, he would not have gotten organized and honest and filled with integrity. He would not have met his wife, have his 2 daughters, or be the man that he is today if it hadn't been for the train wreck that drove him to it. So you can laugh about the train wreck because it's where the devil lost.
Yeah.
The thing that the devil meant for good or meant for evil, God used for good.
Come on. Toss him another one, Wesley.
All right, 2006. Got a Chase Walker.
Paw. We call him Paw because he messed his leg up really bad one time playing ultimate frisbee. And we probably should have taken him to the doctor, but we didn't have enough money. So I'd had a pretty big crash on a Sea-Doo one time. And I think I cracked my hip, but I didn't have enough money to go to the doctor, and I didn't want to go to the doctor. So Stacy bought me a cane, and I've still got it. It's this carved Saku cane with a bear head carved into the handle and stuff. So we just gave him the cane and told him to walk with that for a while and see if it got better. So he walked around with a cane for a while, and we called him Paw.
Pawpaw. And so many other grandfather nicknames you could have used, but Pawpaw. That's nice. That's a good
call
one.
him
I like
Paw.
that.
Chase Walker, man, married a beautiful, brilliant. Chase is super, super smart. Made some bad choices. Wound up at one point, his body was shutting down because of some drugs that he had ingested. His kidneys had failed, liver had failed. Some things were going wrong. They weren't sure he was going to live. And a buddy of ours, who's a preacher, came and visited him. He knew Chase. Came and visited him in the hospital and said, "Hey, if you make it through on the other side of this, I think I know where you need to go." So he came to Narrowgate. Graduated, got an engineering degree, mechanical engineering degree, went to work for the city of Huntsville, married a beautiful girl, pharmacist, got her degree in pharmacy, runs a Walgreens drug department, whatever. They've done all kinds of missions trips. Introduced to a little deaf girl in India. They wound up adopting her and bringing her home and making her a daughter and just live an incredible life. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So started in 2004,
Yeah.
right? this is 2006 that Paw Paw shows up.
Yeah.
What's the difference in Narrowgate from 2004 to 2006?
Oh my gosh. 2004, there was no Narrowgate.
Right.
It was literally, we called it the wilderness dream because we had this dream of something we would do and we were going to use the wilderness. We were going to use the woods to do it. That's all there was. By the time we got to 2006, we had been through Lifetime Guarantee with Bill Gillum enough times. We had been through a handful of books that we went through enough time. We used to use, I think we did Uprising with Erwin McManus when you were there, didn't we?
I think so.
Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had done some books like that. We had a series of books we could turn to as a curriculum. So we sort of had a program for what we wanted to teach. We knew some things that had impact in guys' lives and some things that did not have impact. So we had gotten rid of a lot of what was just a mess at the time. And we had gotten a little more well organized. We had figured out how to have success by screening guys before they come to some degree, not completely, but we had enough of a sample set that we could say what criteria existed inside our successful candidates that did not exist inside of our struggling candidates. And we had been able to put some parameters around who we accepted and how we taught so that we knew we could move people through the entire program as a cohort, as a collective. So organization was the big deal. The other thing was we didn't have our house in Kingston Springs anymore. We had sold our house, sold our offices, our business offices, rented a house for a year on the front of Deer Run Retreat Center. And just about the time Paw Paw showed up, we were moving into this location.
Wow.
Big changes.
Pretty big changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, things move fast at first. Well, things still move fast, but yeah, it was pretty quick, pretty frightening.
What else you got?
All right, let's see here.
Oh, he's going deeper.
How about let's move to 2007. Got a Taylor Broderick.
Yeah. I'm still working at the company. Stacy and I were not full-time employees here at Narrowgate for the first 5 years. We weren't employees. It took a long time to transition away and into this. So Stacy called me one day. She was here and I was at the office and she said, I think you need to come home. And I said, well, I'll be home at 5. And she said, no, Taylor just came and found me and said he needs to talk to you and he's pretty angry. And I said, well, just tell him I'll be home at 5. She said, no, I think you need to come home now. So Taylor had that effect on people. When he became serious about something, he was serious about something. So closed everything down. I ran home. So it's like a half hour from the office to here. I said, where's Taylor? She said, we used to have a back deck. So where the office extension is now, there used to be a great big deck out there. Taylor was up on the back deck. I walked out the back door. Taylor heard the door open. He saw me and very aggressively walked up to me holding a 3-page letter. And it was crumpled in his hands. And he was furious. And he walked up with this crumpled up letter sticking out of his hand, and basically punched me in the chest with this 3-page letter and went, read that. Okay, took the letter and I read it, and he just paced. I mean, like a crazy man. He just paced back and forth on the deck. It was a letter from his grandfather. His grandfather was a Church of Christ preacher his whole life. And he had written Taylor a letter. It was as filled with grace or more filled with grace than any message I have ever heard preached from a Church of Christ pulpit in my life. And I've heard a lot of messages preached from a Church of Christ pulpit. It was as loving and kind and gracious, and it told the gospel of Jesus Christ to Taylor. And I read the whole letter, and I looked at Taylor, and I said, okay. And he walked up, crazy-eyed and finger-pointing. He went, is that the truth? And I said, yeah, that's the truth. And he went, why didn't anybody ever tell me that? And I just stared at him. He said, how come nobody ever told me that? And he just kept repeating it. And I knew it wasn't time to talk. And he said it probably 5 times as the tears started to appear. The sixth time, tears were running down his face, and he was begging, why did nobody ever tell me that? And he just collapsed onto the deck, and he just wept like a child. God broke Taylor Broderick's heart with love. And Taylor became a follower of Jesus Christ. The only thing Taylor wanted was to be Jesus. And to this day, the only thing Taylor wants is to be Jesus. With his giant neck tattoo that says truth, because he wanted everybody to know what he stood for and what changed his life. That's Taylor.
That's a good pick out of the list there.
You just getting random names?
Yeah.
It seems like we prepared that.
I didn't.
Dude, you don't have to. You don't have to.
I mean, and that's the thing that.
God,
I mean, do you guys know that? I'm like, do we even remember that all the time? I mean, there's just story after story after story of like, yeah.
it is the look. Here we go again. Here's another
how
short.
do you-
You can
how
put
do you
this one
even
out, and everybody
contain
just
all
get
of
all
that?
blown up about it. Okay. It's the truth of what happens when you exhaust yourself for the good of someone else. When you stand up and you say, "This day, I do not live for me. This day, I am a hollow vessel through which Jesus can live and love through me to everyone I encounter, specifically or generally. Here I am. This is what happens." But if you ask people if they're available for that, by and large, people aren't. Stacy and I just happened to be in a unique set of circumstances where we were willing to abandon absolutely everything in the hope that God could show up inside of us. And that's why this list is so long, because everybody that, I mean, it's you guys. It's y'all. Like, walk through the front door, and that's who God put in front of us to love. So everything we have. I remember Adam Stoner one day, I had a handmade prototype of a Taylor 614 CE. They didn't actually ever produce them. It was a cherry red flame maple 614 CE with abalone inlay, Florentine cutaway. It was actually built by Bob Taylor and his team. It was just a phenomenal guitar, but not practical for resale and stuff like that. I got it through a weird set of circumstances. It was hanging at the top of our steps in our old Kingston Springs house. And I remember telling Adam Stoner one day, there's nothing we have that actually belongs to us. It's as much yours as it is ours. He said, so I can just walk up there and take that guitar off the wall and you won't do anything about it? I said, if you need it, it's all yours. And so he walked up and he got to the top of the steps and reached out to grab the guitar to see if I was going to say anything. And I just sat there. And he went, you're serious? You would let me have that guitar? I said, not my guitar. And he took it off the wall. I didn't say anything. He goes, you're out of your mind. And he hung the guitar back up on the wall and came down. It's that. It's the, what are you unwilling to give so that someone else can live? I think we did this last time we had a podcast. I would say something, y'all would just stare at each other.
Yeah, because we're still students.
Chewing
I don't
on
know
it.
if you recognize that.
Yeah.
You never really stop being a
Yeah.
student of Narrowgate. So, like, every once in a while, we got to let it sink in and go, I really hope I remember that. After.
I'm just letting it marinate.
Yes.
A little.
It's that Sunday thing and man, I just got to tell you, I'm not a fan. It happens all the time. It happens in pulpits everywhere all the time when the pastor says, what would happen if we as a family, da-da-da. It's like, you can't ask it that way because people have heard that question 1 billion times. But I'll ask it. What would happen? What would happen? I can tell you what would happen. Narrowgate. And it doesn't take everybody. It just takes somebody.
It's happening again.
What about, I'm just going to do this one. What about Logan Pringle?
My wife gave Logan Pringle a book one time. He never read it, but she gave it to him.
Oh, man, I was thinking about this last week. I know exactly what you're going to say. He's reading my mail, y'all. All right.
You remember that, Colin?
I'm filibustering right now, but I'll let you do your thing.
Filibustering.
I don't know anybody on this earth that is more quickly or easily lovable than Logan. I just don't. there is the charismata, the overflowing, the outflowing of the Holy Spirit. So that's where we get our word charisma, right?
It's also where you get Riz. Sorry, it's a new age we're living in.
Riz?
I just had to say it. We don't have to stop there. Let's keep going. I'm filibustering. I'm still doing it.
Like Rizzo, like the character.
It's what the kids say. I don't use it in my
Grease,
day to day.
It's what the kids say.
Moving on.
Okay. That's a gift. That charisma is a gift. Rarely is that kind of charisma accompanied by the ridiculous talent that Logan possesses. I'm just going to talk to you. That way we can. But it's true. I mean, you can litmus test for humility pretty fast. You can find out if humble actually exists. Is it true or is it not? That you have a ridiculous talent. You have an insane talent. Is that true?
It's true.
That's humble. Because if you say no at that point, you're denying what God has done in you. I'm not saying it's placed inside an amazing vessel. The vessel is incredibly earthen and cracked.
Yeah, it could use a little work.
But Paul said we hold this treasure in jars of clay. The light of the glory of gospel of God is held in jars of clay, earthen vessels, humble vessels. That's what holds this magnificent glory. And it just oozes out of Logan. The problem is, Logan, for all of his life, had used that charisma and that talent as self-serving manipulation weapons that he could navigate society with. And it worked because you were around him and you just fell in love with him and you're enamored by what he can do. And so everybody just stood in awe of their first impression of Logan, which was just enough time for him to stiff-arm you socially and keep his distance over here. Now, Y'all know at Narrowgate, that doesn't work because you can't stiff arm and keep your distance from anybody.
Nope.
You're pretty much living solically naked around here. The truth of who you are is going to show up at some point. Well, the truth of Logan showed up because his charisma and talent were in no way matched by character and discipline. Zero, not at all. So my wife gave Logan a book one time written by John Maxwell. And the title of it was Talent is Never Enough.
So simple. You'd think I'd be like, oh, this is, yeah. I still have it.
Talent is never enough. Still hasn't read it, but he still has it.
Dude, I'm blown away because this was like 18 years ago. I mean, I've known you for 18
years.
plus years now.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And
isn't
this feels like fresh yesterday. Like, oh, I'm seen and I am known, and that is terrifying and also awesome. So, yeah,
But here's
you're
the
nailing
thing.
it.
To say that Logan doesn't have discipline and character today is a lie. It's a lie. The life of Christ has come so fully inside of Logan that his talent and charisma are matched by his discipline and character. His humility has given him the ability to embrace the gift that was given and the capacity to recognize shortcoming and meet that with the life of Christ to make up the difference. Logan has become fully a man of God and is becoming even more fully a man of God as a husband, as a father, as a worship leader, as a conversationalist about the things of God, because that's really what this podcast is, right?
Yeah.
So what do I think of Logan? If he were my biological son, I would not be prouder. Could not be prouder. I would claim him in a heartbeat. And do. You are the reason that my life matters. And Taylor. It's just a very long list of people that I am deeply grateful to say that I got to know them, love them, serve them, and watch them grow into who they're called to be.
Wow.
Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
How you feeling?
How
are you doing?
I didn't expect to get as emotional as I am at this moment this evening, but I'm very grateful, and I don't know. I don't even know what to say, man. Yeah. Again, I hope to have the relational capacity to remember not just the things that excite me, but like to remember relationships and remember people.
Yeah.
20 years from now. in the way that you do, and I just want to like honor you for that. I mean, it's
Yeah, but you
and,
want to
and
know why?
I know we're all wired differently, but it's astounding to hear.
Because I've gotten old now, and I've begun to realize that the only thing that really matters is love and relationship. There isn't another treasure in life. There's not. It is love and relationship. That's what it is. And the older I get, the more I want it. And the older I get, the more grateful I am for the ones that I have. Everything else can fall away. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these.
It's good.
It's cool. Like from my vantage point, like I didn't meet you then. You know? I met you like way later, and so to hear him talk about you with a full like intimate knowledge of that version that he described when you first showed up, to me is just, like that's not Logan.
It's not.
Like I don't know that Logan.
Well, it's weirdly refreshing because we don't sit and ponder who we were
Right.
No.
20 years ago.
Right.
Why?
But to hear someone that you love say, "I remember this," and
Yeah.
you're no longer, and that's no longer who you are.
No, the funeral-
that does something.
No, the
That-
funeral's
no matter
been
where
had.
you are.
Let's don't go relive it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
it's Paul. It's 2 Corinthians 5:17. Anyone who is in Christ is a new creation.
Yeah.
Old things have passed away. Now stare at this one for a minute. Everything's new. It's all new. That's not hyperbole. That's the Holy Spirit, which is the voice of Jesus. There it is. That's yes be yes and no be no. The truth is, anyone who is in Christ, old things pass away. It's completely new. That may take some time to manifest and mature, but it's true instantly. It's all y'all. It's instantly, it's already true. You just haven't stepped into the fullness of it yet. It's showing someone an acorn and saying, "What is that?" And they say it's an acorn. I go, "No, I argue it's an oak tree." It just has to be planted in the ground. It just has to do its thing. Or something sprouts out of the ground and it's this tall. What's that? It's an oak tree. No, it's not. It's a sprout. Go do a DNA test on it and see what it is, okay? Come back in 100 years. What is it? It's an oak tree. It just took a while to get there. Doesn't change what it is.
Yeah, there's a sense of not like dwelling on the past or like focusing on the old man or the old me, but there is sometimes a sense of like gratitude that I feel when I reflect back on who I was or what I was, because it's just the difference. Like I was talking to somebody recently, like when I think back to the me that showed up at Narrowgate, on day one. Like I'm not.
You pulling your name off the list now?
No. I don't have to go there. But I think, like I can't even put myself in the same mindset of that man. Like I don't. It's like I would be telling somebody else's story almost.
Yeah.
When I talk about the old man, it's like it's not me. That guy's dead.
Yep. Sure is.
And I'm grateful for that.
That man has been crucified with Christ.
Amen.
Well, I'm gonna try this segue on. We got everything from acorns to sprouts to some oak trees here in the room with us. I'm wondering if we could open up to some questions that you guys might have for Bill or for us. I guess y'all can ask
us.
us.
That was a great segue.
Did you see that? Did you remember the thing he said about the?
Oh yeah, dude. That was.
All right. So who's gonna be the brave one and come up to the microphone first?
My name is Isaac Benson. I just graduated in June of 2024.
Yep.
It's still 2024. Yeah.
Yes,
and
I can confirm that you graduated in June of
thank you.
2024.
I still have the sword. It is in my room. Okay. But I guess the first question I would like to ask is just, something I feel everyone thinks when they hear Bill talk and speak about the things that he just knows. It's just like, how much did it take to get to this point with your knowledge and the way that you speak? Like, what did it take? I guess that's the question.
Good question.
Wow. Trying to think of a good, clean way to answer it, Isaac. You gonna get married someday?
God willing,
Would you like to get married someday?
I would definitely like to get married one day.
Gonna have kids?
Yeah, actually, I would like to have more than 2 now. That's God too, because I did not want more than 1 before I came to Narrowgate.
You're too good a man to not have kids.
Yeah, God too.
What will you be willing to do to make sure that those kids can thrive and succeed?
Anything and everything,
Would you work a weekend job?
of course.
Eat supper, work a second shift, 3 hours at Home Depot, something like that to make ends meet if that's what it takes?
They're my kids.
Give up your Saturday to just sit and color and
It's not my Saturday anymore.
that's what it takes. When you wake up every day and you know that you're going to walk out around the coffee pot and somebody's going to have a question about Scripture, and if you don't have an answer and you're scared to death, that if you look at them and go, I don't know, and they can interpret that as I don't care enough to know, that's what it takes. When you care enough that you're willing to dig constantly so that you have something to say, even if it's just to foster the conversation. You don't have to have the answer. You just have to have something to offer the conversation so that you can engage with their mind and heart. That's what it takes. And if you do that for decades, this amazing thing happens. A lot of it sticks. If your life is given over to that, if your life is given over to your kids, God will build inside of you a capacity for love that you can't have any other way. And I'll say the same thing about you, Isaac. I couldn't be prouder of you if you were my biological son. I would claim you any day, anywhere. Dude, your level of honesty and integrity, your lovability, your kindness, your goodness, it's off the charts, man. I love you to death. That's what it takes. Yeah, I know, man. And we always will. Like literally, we always will. We'll be separated for a little while because one of us is going to die soon. I think it's going to be me, but one of us is going to die soon. And then we'll be together in heaven again. Can you imagine how happy we're going to be then? And we have forever together. So that's what it takes. It takes a desire to exhaust yourself so that you have something to give to the people you love the most. And if you do that, it'll be incredible what you'll learn, what God will allow you to retain so that you'll have something to give to those who are in need.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
It's a great question, man.
Love you, buddy.
So, I'm Logan Britt, not that
Did you have
one.
to think about that last name for a minute? Because I noticed the pause
I
in
had to
there.
remember to say my last name. I think one of the questions I heard the most students asking when I was a student, and the most students asked me when I was an intern is, what do you think the most important thing you got out of Narrowgate was?
Was not prepared to be asked a question.
See, he looked at me the whole time he was asking the question, and then he turned around and looked at you when the question was over. It was kind of confusing.
Yeah.
I was just dead-eyed staring forward.
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
wasn't
Sorry about
staring
that.
Directly at you,
Yeah.
I was staring through you.
Yeah.
But the question's for me?
As any one of y'all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what was the most important thing that I got out of Narrowgate?
At least to this point.
Okay. I think that the most important thing that I got out of Narrowgate was, one, a relationship with Jesus. I mean, that's kind of I can't think of a more important thing than that.
Yeah.
But that was
Pretty
definitely an important thing. But I feel
kind
like
of
just to facilitate,
It's sort of in the name.
right. Yeah, exactly.
The narrow gate. It's like,
In addition to that, I think I learned how to think, like how to think critically, how to think for myself, how to learn. I think before Narrowgate, I was looking to anything for life, for meaning, I don't know that I was interested in anything other than just having a good time or fulfilling some sort of desire that I had for excitement or fun or whatever, but nothing really meaningful. But then when I came to Narrowgate, I think I discovered passion You know, I discovered that there's something deep in me that longs for something. There's something that has been placed in me that I want in life. And so I found that at Narrowgate. And then I was given the tools to learn how to pursue that passion and to develop in the things that I was passionate about and grow. And so I would say that, like, I mean, I'm obviously I love Narrowgate, and I don't want to just, like, you know, sound like a fanboy, but like I learned who I am here, you know. Like, I actually found meaning and purpose in life that I would never have touched if I hadn't have come here, if I hadn't have met Jesus here. So that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good answer.
I'm going to say yes to all that. I think there's one thing that I think about pretty frequently, is that I have the ability to hear the voice of God. The idea that always seemed so distant. I mean, growing up in the church, that concept always seemed so distant from me. It seemed like science fiction. It seemed like something that was reserved for holy men of God that I didn't have any context for, and the fact that the trusting in the Word, that He is speaking and we can hear His voice, and the concept that getting into the Word and learning the language of God, it's just like me watching my 2-year-old daughter go from dada one syllable baby words to all of a sudden, just in the last couple weeks, it's amazing. Her language has exploded and she's talking in sentences, and like I think about that all the time. Or the fact that, man, if I feel like I can't hear the voice of God, then I know now, because of conversations, because of truths that I learned at Narrowgate, something else in my life has got my ear, or something else in my life is too loud right now, and it's created this kind of like spiritual barometer in my life that I think about all the time. That God wants to speak to His children through His children, and if I'm not hearing it, that doesn't mean that He's disappointed with me or something's wrong. It means that I'm just out of line, or I'm busying myself, or I've got too many other voices that I'm bending my ear to, and so it brings me back to how I read the Word, a hunger to read the Word and to learn more of God's vocabulary. But yeah, man, I think about that all the time, and I learned that here. So
That's good.
That's incredibly well said. I hope they make a short out of that, man.
Oh, I know the guy.
Yeah.
Great question, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Logan.
That's good. That's a good way to finish. I said there can be only one Jake. That's, yeah.
Name is Jacob Ader. I'm currently in service. And I was just wondering if there's anything new and big for the future of Narrowgate that's not here currently.
That sounds like an executive director question.
Yeah, let's go find him. Yes is the simple answer. So the obvious follow-up, okay, is what is that? And as goofy as this sounds, I don't know that I know. I can tell you that our move to Columbia is the fulfillment of a 10-year-long journey where we are now planted in a community where we get to be the church. Not go to church. We get to be the church, serving the community of Columbia in a way that most business enterprises never think about serving. We have property, we have a home, we are permanently established so that we can embed ourselves into the lives of the people there. And the student integration in that process will be fuller than it's ever been before. It'll be more immersive than it's ever been before. It'll be more effective than it's ever been before. So is there anything new on this property? Man, I hope we never build another building on this property. We have so many buildings. We have done so much here. I think we're done here. I really do. But I think we're just beginning there. And the way we're going to connect everything at Narrowgate Lodge with everything at Narrowgate Artisans will be the fulfillment of a mantra that we've been chanting for about the last 3 years called One Narrowgate. There is one narrow gate. That's Jesus. He enter through the narrow gate. I am the gate. Like that's a guy. There's one narrow gate. If it expresses itself through business to a community or expresses itself through leadership and learning in a neo-monastic environment like this, doesn't matter. It's still just the life of Christ, giving, serving, and loving the people that he's calling to himself. That's it. So what's new and big? I'd keep my eye on Columbia and see what's emerging there. I don't know exactly what that is yet. I got a lot of ideas. It would be silly for me to say any of them out loud right now. I just know that that's what God does. He throws up 100 possibilities, and I know that one of them is probably going to come true, if not 12 of them. So keep your eye there.
My name's Austin, or Austin Kreider. I am in lower community, and this honestly isn't a question. This honestly isn't a question.
He did the thing.
Honestly?
You're never not going to think about it now.
He got it.
Honestly,
It was-
it's not a question.
This is kind of more of a thank you in terms of I've only been here 3 months, and it's directed more towards Bill. But honestly, every day that I get to interact with you is a blessing, and so I wanted
Man,
to say
thanks.
thank you for that, because whether I ask 17 questions about the same 3 verses in Ruth, or if it's just a faith-shattering question, every time I ask you a question, it's with open arms and always met with grace and kindness. And I just wanted to say thank you for that, because like you talk about in your studies with Psalm 23 and Luke 15, God has to break our leg to change our lives.
Thank you, man. Can I turn it around for a minute, though? Every day that you ask me questions, it reminds me that there are still people hungry out there to know the truth. And it reminds me that my life still has a reason for being. If you stopped asking questions, then what's the point of me? You're the point of me. Your life is the point of my life. So it is just as much a two-way street. I'm just as grateful for you and your hunger and your passion. I look over your shoulder and I see your book just filled with notes. And I know you're coming to ask questions. And dude, that just lights me up, because we've talked about it 100 times. The power is always in the questions. It's never in the answers. The answers are just a new platform for the next question. That's all they are. The power is always in the questions. The questions is where we grow. That kind of hunger, that's what drives me to keep going, man. So I'm just as grateful for you, I promise. Yeah.
It's good.
I clapped my ankle because I was too lazy to pick my hand up.
Good move. It's a good move.
My name's Riley Ritter.
Yes, it is.
In community, I'm in the same class as Austin. And I want to ask this question, but I can't really ask it without giving some context to it. When I was in foundation and we had our graduation, I was given the word home by Josh Fuller. And to me, that word was really personal, because for the last 2-3 years, I haven't really had a place to call home, or a place I knew I could permanently reside. And I thought, like, why was I given this word? You know, it almost felt like insulting to me. Like, how could I possibly have a home? And then he gave context to that, being that home is with Jesus, with the people around us. Home is narrow gate. And I thought, well, I'm only here for 8 months. It's not permanent. And I just really thought about it and got into some like personal arguments and fights with people I had thought to be friends. And then I reflected on that, and I just saw them as family. And I was like, we live here together. We do everything, you know, like I can't escape you, basically. Like, we have to like each other whether we like it or not. And that made me realize, like, this is like home. And then to see guys like Weston and Logan who have families and kids, it kind of just makes me wonder, like, do y'all still view this place as home? Is this your second place of, I don't know the right word, but resignation? Or, that's not the right word.
Residence. There you go.
Residence.
Yeah,
It's good.
That's the
We're
right word.
with you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that one got me a little more teared up than Bill even talking kindly about me. It is. I said it even earlier tonight. I still consider myself a student of Narrowgate because I'm blessed enough to be able to come out here and hang out with you guys, to do this podcast, to attend church with you guys, and to be in relationship with Bill and Stacy. And these kind of conversations that are just such a normal part of life out here, they don't happen everywhere, even in vocational ministry.
That's right.
And so coming here to this physical place, and we know it's not just the place, it's the people. Like this is the family of God for me. I mean, obviously that the family of God is much bigger than just the Narrowgate family, but I've said it before on this podcast. This was the family that welcomed me back in when I had made huge mistakes, huge blunders after graduating as a student. This was the place that welcomed me back. And it's one of the greatest joys of my life now that I do have a family, that I've got small children, and they'll be out here tomorrow for the reunion. And the fact that they know this place by name brings me so much joy, and I don't even know why. But yeah, this has always felt like a home to me, and the family, the people who've made it that home, have proven themselves time and time again to love me well, and to stand by me. So yeah, absolutely. Easy answer. That was a long way to say absolutely yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll give you a short answer. I mean, dude, I was born here, so yeah, this is a home for me. This is a place where I'm surrounded by family, and yeah, you're only here for 8 months, but it doesn't end there. I was here for 6 months, and I'm still here.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, if this isn't home, like, yeah, I don't know. I think if I were to do anything else, if I were to go somewhere different every day for work, I would feel homesick. So.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Man.
Riley, think about it this way too. How do you know that 15 years from now it's not you sitting in that chair?
I guess the truth behind that is we don't. And honestly, when y'all were up here talking, I was thinking back to 20 years ago when this place started. The people who are sitting in the audience right now, including myself, like, we are the future of Narrowgate.
You are.
Absolutely.
There may come a day where it's our turn to sit up in y'all's chairs, and to think about the impact we can have on the generations to come is just, it's impactful.
Yeah.
For 20 years, God has allowed me, the Holy Spirit has allowed me to look beyond the surface of a human existence and see the potential become reality. I look at guys like you and Austin. I see the potential, and I don't see it as potential. I see it as more real than the current circumstances. So I don't think there may come a day. There will come a day.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
It was a thoughtful question, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My name is Nathan Hamilton. I graduated April of 2023. And off of what Isaac said and your answer to that, having this desire to exhaust yourself for the benefit of others, my question would have to be, how do I develop that desire? And how can I increase that desire? Because in the current state that I am, I do have that desire, but more than that, I have the desire to have that desire. I want that so badly, and I find myself lacking in that.
Great question.
There's a triangle: discipline, delight, desire. And since it's desire that we're talking about, then we'll talk about the triangle. There is no beginning point on it. It's more like 3 points on a circle. If you have a desire for something, then you need to choose, because that's the impetus for all change, right? Choose. Set your mind on things above. That's a choice. If you exercise the discipline of living in sacrificial postures of love, then at the end of the day, when that sacrifice is made, the delight that you'll get out of the discipline that you exercised will only fuel the desire for greater change. And that will, in turn, give you what you need to choose the next day to exhaust yourself in love, which will bring desire into your life, which will fuel bring delight into your life, which will fuel your desire. And that's the cycle. That cycle goes both directions. But discipline, really, choice is that's the impetus for all of it. Delight and desire are fruits of discipline. There's a guy just recently moved from earth to heaven. Big celebration. I learned a lot from the guy. I ran a home building company down in Texas. And he wanted his home building company to be a ministry. He did not want it to be primarily a company. He wanted it to be primarily the church in the market space. And he had to pray for years, God, give me a heart for my people. Now, there's our Christianese, but that's the way he said it, and I want to do him justice because that's what he would tell me. What he's really saying, if you take the Christianese out of it, is make my heart to love my people. If you think about what the text says, delight yourself in the Lord, there's one of our words, right? And he will give you what? The desires of your heart. If you want to desire something more, place your delight in God. That's a choice. Discipline yourself to find your delight in God, and your heart will desire the things of God. He will give desires to your heart. So how do you build that desire? Simple. Tomorrow, don't allow yourself to make choices about what serves you best primarily. Ask yourself what serves others best primarily, and trust God to meet your needs in the process.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. You kind of already knew all that, but
That's good.
My name is Josh Fuller. I graduated class of June 2023. I think I can speak for a lot of people when I ask this question, but I ask this question for myself. What would you tell a guy like me who wants to do what the Lord has called me to, but constantly deals with the thought, I can't do it? And then when they fail, mess up, how do you bounce back from that failure?
yeah. Well, first of all, there are very, 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 very few people that I know in this world that are like you.
Amen.
You are an enigma. You truly are. You are one of the chosen. You have something. You have a drive inside of you, Josh. You have an accountability, a servant posture that people don't possess. What's amazing is that everyone in this world can see it except for you, and that's the devil's trick. He's going to hold a mirror up that's going to obscure the truth of who you are and try to block you from staring fully into the image of God. The way he does that is he tricks you into thinking that you need to be the one that assesses the value of you. But you can't be the one who assesses the value of you. That's a trick. Only God can assess the value of you. And you don't necessarily believe what God says about you as much as you believe that little whisper in your ear that's holding up that little funhouse mirror going, no, 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 no. You know you better than God knows you. Dude, it's just not true. So how do you bounce back from it? Number one, memorize all the things that God says is true about you and say them constantly. And then try your dead level best to sell that truth to everybody around you. You need to tell them what God says about you. Don't hold it inside. Say, you want to know the thing that makes my life good? And quote them. Quote them, dude. I was chosen before the foundation of the world to be written in the Lamb's Book of Life. Do you have any idea how special that makes me? For most people, that would be arrogance. But for you, that's humility, because you're actually claiming the treasure that's inside this earthen vessel. And that takes a level of humility to deny the arrogant posture of being the judge of self that puts you on the throne instead of God. That's incredibly arrogant. It takes you off the throne and puts God on the throne. That's humility. How do you bounce back from it? With the truth, with the truth, with the truth. Then with the truth spoken, and the truth spoken, and the truth spoken. And then when the truth acted upon, and the truth acted upon, and the truth acted upon. There's nobody, I bet I could line the whole foundation class up right now that you're leading and ask them, I heard it from them when we built the stage yesterday for our songwriter event tomorrow. They told me what an effective job you do at taking the truth of the gospel of John, a foundation of faith, and making it real in their lives. They all admire you. Everybody does. Everybody in this room admires you. It's the devil that doesn't admire you. And for too many years, he had your ear, and he still does. So what advice would I give? That was the original question. Lighten up, dude. Lighten the heck up. Don't be so hard on yourself. You want instant perfection. Dude, have you had instant grits compared to real grit? They suck. Real grits are good. Instant grits suck. Instant perfection sucks because it's fading. It pops up and it's gone. You want something that has deep roots and lasting growth, and that takes time. So lighten up, believe the people around you, listen to the voice of God, and then speak it and live it. And over time, it'll change. Yeah. Look, I did real claps.
I'm Jason Ross.
Dude, your
and
beard's getting longer.
Yes, it is getting longer, and it just keeps getting longer.
I think it's kind of cool looking, man. It's going to be down to your belly button one of these days.
You never know. It could.
No, I do know. It's going to be, I just said it. If you don't cut it when you're 93, it'll be down to your belly button.
I mean, that's a true fact.
It'll be almost as long as Weston's hair.
Be
Goals.
something.
Okay,
Oh,
sorry,
boy.
Jason.
Yeah. Graduated in February 2017. The question I wanted to ask, I see so many of my friends as I'm getting out into the world that are hurting and they get involved in self-destructive things. I think a lot of the people that come to Narrowgate know about getting involved in self-destructive things. They often come to me looking for advice because God's given me the role of being a teacher and a counselor to other people. How do I balance wisdom and gentleness when I'm speaking to them? Because I want to speak truth to them in a way that imputes love, that says who God is in my life without breaking them. And I know part of that is focusing on love and who God is in my life and speaking the truth of that. But what are the disciplines, and as we were talking about earlier, that help with finding that balance as we're speaking to other people?
Yeah. So a couple of things. Number one, have you ever heard the old adage, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care? Okay, that's the first one. If those people don't believe that you love them to the point that you would exhaust yourself for their good, then it just doesn't even matter what you say. So the first thing is, Dan Scott said it in the very second episode, I think the church needs a period of holy silence where they live in such sacrificial postures of love that the world comes back to us looking for answers. So that's the first thing you have to do. Live in such a sacrificial posture of love that people come to you looking for answers. Now, you said they're already doing that, which means they see something in your life that they want. The question is, how badly do they want it? At what cost, right? Do you want to change? Yes. At what cost? That's always the second question. The next thing, when you're starting to, speak the truth, have whatever the phrase is that we want to use for that, we oftentimes forget that people change much more readily through called out encouragement than they do accusatory correction. We live in a world that wants to tell people what they're doing wrong instead of telling people what they're doing right. What if you just focused on telling people the good or the God that you see within them? And no, okay, let's don't do that as a short because people are going to blow that one up. I'm not saying people are God, okay? This isn't New Age Gnosticism here. I'm saying that the neshama, the resident image of God, exists within every human being, so there is something good to find within everyone. It is there. They are the image bearer of God, if nothing else. It's that. The potential for love exists inside of every single human being. There's a good right there. What if you spent your time calling the good up instead of trying to call correctively the bad out? That's a good place to start. Because for most of those people that are living lives that are already a little bit self-destructive and jacked up, they got everybody in their ear telling them what they're doing wrong. What if they told somebody what they're doing right and what the potential of that could be long term? That's how you convince people that you love them.
That's a good question. Is that like a universal thing about people? Because I noticed that with my kids. It's like I can get on to my sons about things that they've done wrong. But
Yeah.
if I point to one of them, man, I start praising him for the fact that he listened and he obeyed. If I point out if I elevate the good things, all eyes go to that kid.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I'm gonna do that.
Oh yeah.
They want to
Yeah.
they want to follow that model of behavior and get that praise from their father. And again, it's calling up the good instead of drilling down the bad in the other way.
Okay, so let me. I'm going to give a sales call out here. Okay, no, it's not what I said. So the two books that are coming out this year are Narrowgate Notes on Identity and Narrowgate Notes on Purpose. They're coming out later this fall.
Cool.
It's basically the curriculum for Christian growth encapsulated in two books. So Scripture Sainthood, that's identity. Sanctification Servanthood, that's service, right? There's a model in the early part of that book that talks about the makeup of human existence. It's got body, soul, and spirit. It talks about heart and flesh. You probably remember that model because you've been through it. Trichotomous model,
the big
right?
words.
Trichotomous versus dichotomous, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so in that model, what we talked about was when God said, you shall not eat the fruit of this tree, for on the day you eat of it, you shall surely die. Okay, did Adam die? Well, listen, did he bodily die? No, he did not on that day. Did he soulically die, meaning he no longer had feeling, he no longer had choice? No, his soul didn't die on that. His personality stayed intact. Spiritually, did he die? Spirit is the vehicle that communicates you, your soul, back to the realm of God. And that's what died. You could no longer proactively reach back out to God. But your soul still needs the thing that it was created to need, which is love, esteem, acceptance, those things. So you turn to the world to get it. There's our platform. Now we can have our discussion. If you offer esteem, admiration, love, acceptance, any of those things in the world, there's a hungry soul inside of every single individual that desperately wants it. So offer it up, not falsely. Never lie, never flatter, never manipulate. Tell the truth of the good within that individual and watch the world. I mean, they will suck to it because their soul desperately needs it. So is it a universal truth? Yes, because we are universally human. We all have that same need. How about if we just be the resource for God to push his love through us and offer it up to those people so that he can call those people back to himself, the true wellspring of love.
So good.
That is good. This has been really cool.
Yeah, this has been a very unique experience. I mean, again, guys, thank y'all so much for being here. Thank y'all for being a part of this. Yeah, man, send us out.
Bill, thank you for sitting here and talking with us, answering questions on the fly.
It's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. It's cool to look at somebody who spent their lives learning, growing, changing, so that you can sit here, in your hundreds and answer all
Early
these
hundreds.
questions. Yeah, early hundreds.
Early
almost
late,
just threw
late
something at you just
110s. Yeah.
You want to know what seems unfair to me?
What's that?
Is that Stacy's not up here on this couch.
Mm.
If there really is a wellspring of love and acceptance and admiration and encouragement and discipline and structure and foresight and discernment, it's her.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the one that gets to retain Bible passages. She's the driver.
Mm-hmm.
You guys know that.
Yeah.
You guys know that. Without her, I have nothing. I am nothing. It's true that the right marriage, the one born of God, it makes one complete expression of God. Yeah. And she is that completion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that seems a little unfair. I mean, I'm happy to sit up here and do it. It's fun for me to get to hang out with you guys, but I just don't ever want to sit here and pretend like it's, me that answered the questions.
Yeah.
It was Stacy who stood in the kitchen and led Matt Bennett to the foot of the cross where he gave his heart to Jesus. Because she was in there cooking breakfast for everybody, and he came down early wondering how he could get saved. It's that posture of servanthood. So.
Yeah. Well, I can say I have been equally as impacted by Stacy as I have you.
Yeah.
And that's been a really cool.
If not more, maybe, huh?
Yeah.
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 Thank God for Stacy.
Thank God for Stacy.
Yeah, that's what he said. And as always, if you want to hear more about Narrowgate, you can check out the show notes.
Hope you enjoyed.
Hope you enjoyed the episode.